to Mathematical Minutes with Dr. Rhonda Fitzgerald, where we strive to give you understanding to mathematical concepts in minutes. So today we'll talk about arithmetic combinations of functions. So here we see the definition for 4 different situations. The very first situation is if I had the function f plus g of x. And that simply states that I just take f of x and add it to g of x. The second situation is the difference, where I have f minus g of x. And here we just take the difference of the two functions, f of x minus g of x. The third is the product. That's just f times g of x. That means take the product of the two functions, f of x times g of x. And the last situation, we have the quotient of the two functions, f over g of x. And that simply states to take f of x and divide it by g of x. Note that since we have a fraction, though, we cannot have 0 in our denominator. So our denominator can't equal 0. So here we have that restriction that g of x cannot equal 0. So let's look at a situation for example for a couple of these situations. The very first situation I'm going to have where f of x is equal to 2x plus 3. And g of x, I'm going to have that equal, that a different color. My g of x is going to equal x plus 1. So how do I find these two pieces? So my very first example, we're going to find or calculate f plus g of x. So once again, we note that this is equal to f of x plus g of x. F of x plus g of x. So what is f of x? Well, f of x is simply 2x plus 3. And then I need to add g of x. And g of x is simply x plus 1. And lastly, we just simplify these terms. So 2x plus x gives me 3x. 3 plus 1 gives me plus 4. So that simplifies to 3x plus 4. Let's continue and look at a different example. What if I had, and we wanted to find f minus g of x. F minus g. And so once again, this is just the sum of the two. So it's f of x minus g of x. And so once again, I'm just going to write my two functions and simplify them. So f of x is 2x plus 3. And now it says to subtract g of x. But when I'm subtracting, since I'm subtracting more than one piece, I need to use a set of parentheses. And so g of x was x plus 1. Note that we have to distribute our negative through. So that becomes 2x plus 3 minus x minus 1. And so now we just simplify this final piece to get our final answer. So 2x minus x simply gives us x. 3 minus 1 gives us 2. So the final answer for this is simply x minus 2. So that's the quantity f minus g of x. Now let's look at the product. What's going to happen when I have the product? So my next example is I want to find the product of these two. F times g of x, right? And so that's just the product, f of x times g of x. And so here I'm just going to multiply these guys out. 2x plus 3 times x plus 1. And so here you actually have to FOIL this. All right, I have to FOIL this out. And so when I FOIL this guy out, we end up with 2x squared. My outer gives me plus 2x. My inner is plus 3x. And my last gives me plus 3. And so when I simplify this, we have 2x squared plus 5x plus 3. So that's the product, f times g of x. All right, that's my product, f times g of x. The very last example that we want to show is the quotient. Right, the very last number, situation number 4, our quotient. So our quotient example, we want to look at f over g. F over g of x. And like we said, of x. It's f of x over g of x. So let's write these again. This simply equals 2x plus 3 over x plus 1. Well, notice this can't be simplified any further, so this is our actual quotient right here. The only thing we need to state is our restriction. Remember, our denominator cannot equal 0, so what's going to make that equal 0? Let's go off to the side. We know that x plus 1 cannot equal 0. All right, and so if I subtract 1 to both sides, we know that x cannot equal a negative 1. So we have the restriction of x not equal to negative 1, but this is our quotient. And that's arithmetic combinations of functions. You've seen an example for each of the 4 situations. Thank you.